The Secrets of Star Trek is brought to you by the Star Quest Production Network and is made possible by our many generous patrons. If you'd like to support the podcast, please visit sqpn.com/give. You're listening to The Secrets of Star Trek, episode number 78.
Captain to bridge.
Spock here.
Make it so. Surrender is not an option.
Attention crew of the Enterprise, this is James Kirk.
We are all explorers, driven to know what's over the horizon, what's beyond our own shores.
We would have helped you get home if you had asked. That's who Starfleet is.
Hi, I'm Dom Bettinelli, and you're listening to The Secrets of Star Trek, where we discuss the hidden layers and deeper meanings found in all the Star Trek TV series, movies, and more. And today we're discussing the Star Trek Discovery first season episode, Choose Your Pain. And joining me today on the panel are Father Corey Stika. Hi, Father Corey.
How's it going?
And Jimmy Aiken. Hi, Jimmy.
Howdy, Dom.
Folks, I want to encourage you to be sure to share the podcast with your friends, your Trekkie friends. I think they'd appreciate it the most. Your friends who don't like Trek, maybe not. But especially as we're getting close to the new Star Trek Picard series, there's going to be a lot of interest in what people have to say about it. And I think we have a unique perspective coming at it as from Catholics who have a particular perspective on the world. So we'd love to share what we have to say with a wider audience, and that we'd appreciate if you could help us reach more people that way. So we're talking about this first season episode of Star Trek Discovery called Choose Your Pain. It's the fifth episode that was released in that season. And, to give a quick recap, Captain Lorca is on a shuttle after a quick mission to a starbase and is captured by Klingons, where he encounters Harry Mudd and Ash Tyler, apparently Starfleet lieutenant, and we have repercussions that result.
Yeah, we kind of got to decide about how much spoilery we're going to be about a couple of things. One of them is Ash Tyler. The other is Captain Lorca's vision, because there are future reveals involving both Captain Lorca's unusual light sensitivity, which they really hammer in this episode, and Ash Tyler's identity, because I don't know if we want to totally spoil those things right now or let people know there's a mystery, but leave the mysteries unresolved.
We've kind of spoiled we've referenced the revelations about both of these things in previous discussions of the first season. So I think
it helps. It helps too. I mean, we are talking about, the first season. So this is past spoiler time. It's not like we're talking about a new episode that we know what's coming up later. This is so if you haven't, let this be your warning. If you're one of those that you don't like spoilers of 2-year-old TV series, sorry.
Right. Yeah, you should not be listening to this if you didn't want to be spoiled. So yeah, I think with that also we add some value by being able to look back at these things, given what we knew about the rest of the season, and add some value to it that way. So I think we're safe in revealing that Ash Tyler is really a time-traveling Captain Kirk.
I mean, that was such a huge reveal. I mean, people didn't expect him to peel off the face and have William Shatner underneath.
Yeah,
I mean, that was mind-blowing.
Some great CGI on that, but no, just kidding. So this episode...
That might have made the first season a lot more entertaining if that actually did happen.
Well, especially if it was like an 80-plus-year-old William Shatner. That would have been better. So apparently the producers, the writers, wanted this episode, Choose Your Pain, to kind of show that although Kelpians are cautious, they're not cowardly.
Paralyzed by fear.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Paralyzed by fear, cowardly. And, or at least Saru isn't, that he has a bit of a backbone. So I thought that's interesting as we talk about this, to kind of, to keep that in mind, because we have these two things that are happening in this episode. We have Lorca's imprisonment with Ash Tyler, but then we have this whole other thread of Saru, temporary captain, trying to get the spore drive online so they can go rescue Lorca. And there's this tension in between those things. It's interesting, this was the first appearance of Harry Mudd in Discovery, so his first time in Star Trek since the original series, and it's sort of a origin point for Harry Mudd. He's not the sort of happy-go-lucky swindler dragging some beautiful women along behind him to marry off to some unsuspecting minors. There's a bit more sinister in Harry at this point.
And the seeds of who he will be in the original series are there. They even talk about his wife, Stella.
Yes.
And they give us backstory on Stella and why he's not with her and things like that.
So the episode starts off with a classic dream sequence. And it turns out that Burnham is having a nightmare. She's alone on the ship, and
she sees herself in the spore reaction chamber thing in the place of the tardigrade being tortured like the tardigrade is tortured whenever they use the drive.
Right.
And I thought they missed an opportunity here, because one of the things they established from the second pilot of Star Trek onward is that humans have, if it's not on Vulcan or Betazoid level, but humans have a degree of ESP. And if I had been the writer for this episode, I would have said that's what's happening in her dream, that she's using her latent human ESP to tap into what the tardigrade is experiencing.
Right.
I mean, I just think it as her conscience.
Yeah, it's that too.
Freaking her, but yeah, that could have been an interesting thread that the tardigrade shows its sentience, its intelligence, which is a key aspect of the moral quandary in this episode. Is what is the tardigrade? Does it have, is there a moral component to what they're doing to it in here? And I do want to get into that as we go along. But that would have been interesting. But Burnham does feel responsible for the tardigrade is deteriorating. Its health is deteriorating because they keep tapping into it to do the spore drive,
the jumps.
Mm-hmm. And so she has consulted with Culber. Who, by the way, at this point, we don't know anything about his relationship with Stamets. Not until the very end of the episode is that revealed. But she consults with him on the tardigrade's health. So it just it sets up the later conflict. Meanwhile, Lorca has taken a shuttle to a starbase, and this is a part of the premise of the whole premise of the story that kind of fails. Like, why did he take a shuttle? Why didn't the ship take him to the starbase? I mean, it's not like they have a problem traveling distances. They have a spore drive. They could just go there in an instant. It seemed like a bit of a plot hole there.
Yeah.
Well, you had to get the captain off the ship because obviously the Klingons aren't going to try to ambush a fully armed.
Well, that would have created a whole different
ship
set
like that.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, and somehow the Klingons knew he was on this ship, and that's never really established how they knew. I mean, we could just assume that they had spies or whatever, but
Yeah, or decrypted. I mean, it could be SIGINT. They could have decrypted communications or something. Right. But upshot of the meeting on the starbase is Admiral Cornwell tells Lorca that it's an urgent priority. We need more spore drives, and for that we need more tardigrades. And Discovery needs to dial back its jumps because we want to avoid taxing our prime asset during the war.
Which is probably why he took the shuttle, actually, now that I think about it.
Mm-hmm.
If they don't want him to keep jumping, then they would want him not to go there with the spore drive. Okay. Although they could have taken the whole ship, again, because the shuttle traveled.
Yeah.
But okay.
And the only thing I could think of is, later on in the season, they have it where the Discovery's hiding.
Right.
For reasons. Reasons that fit the plot, but,
strategic
they want
reasons.
Right.
Yeah.
So
that kind of makes sense that they would have it somewhere where it's out of sight, out of mind type of deal.
Okay.
Yeah. Meanwhile, in the mess hall, there is a scene where Tilly comes to have lunch with Burnham, and Burnham is so distracted by her tardigrade thoughts that Tilly thinks Burnham is breaking up with her to find new and better friends.
Right. So awkward. Oh, poor awkward Tilly. There's more interesting people on Discovery. I get it. That's fine. No. So, we also get treated to a scene where Lorca is giving himself his eye treatments by poking himself in the eye with a needle. Oh,
yeah.
Oh, that was hard to watch. They do that several times, by the way, in this series where they
they really hit his eye thing heavy in this episode.
Yeah, but even just like going forward, like in the second season, we have a couple times, or at least once, where someone gets like a poke in the eye from the AI. That was
It just occurred to me, the device he uses, he's got this like rod that he sticks up to his eye, and then it sends out an injector needle to administer anesthetic to his eye. Now, I've had eye surgery, and, because I had cataracts, and they don't use a needle to anesthetize your eye. They have other better ways of doing
Probably
it.
a spray. I assume they've got something more like a spray or something like that, wouldn't they?
Yeah. But since his thing is his retina, I guess the medicine has to get all the way to the back of the eye. But it just occurred to me that the thing he's using is kind of like a device that actually exists, not for your eye, but diabetics have a little device that is a rod that has a button, and you push the button and it sticks out a needle so that you can do a blood test, because apparently a lot of people don't like taking a finger sticker and just sticking themselves with it. But it's easier for them to push a button and have the sticker happen.
It's spring-loaded.
And so I'm guessing, spring-loaded. And so I guess that it's the same logic here. Not many people would want to stick a needle in their eye voluntarily. No. So it's easier to put a little distance between you and the needle with this mechanism.
Oh, yeah.
So now everybody's turned off because it's like the most cringy thing.
Yeah.
We're all sitting, you can't see us. All of us are sitting on the call going, ugh.
Yeah.
I'm not.
So
okay, 2 of the 3 are.
Yeah. So Cornwell kind of confronts Lorca about Burnham, about the whole situation of Starfleet's first ever mutineer, which I still find that hard to believe that no one has ever mutinied in the history of Starfleet.
The only thing I could think of is that she's the only currently living mutineer. That's the only way that could make any sense whatsoever.
Yeah, although she doesn't say it like that, but yeah, I mean you're right.
I mean, it's because the way the sentence is said, it's like that's impossible. I mean, at this point, Starfleet, would have been what,
over 100 years,
something like that. From Enterprise, series Enterprise to Discovery is what, about 100 years? Yeah. So,
and in the original series, there was an incident where, there's never been a mutiny on a Starfleet ship before. It's like, well, what about Michael Burnham? I know she's not canon yet.
Yeah, that's right. Oh, we all forgot about the Battle of the Binary Stars. Come on. So Lorca responds, Starfleet regulations give me the right to conscript virtually anyone in a time of war. And Cornwell's point is, look, having a mutineer serving on board your ship is a blow to morale. People want her to be punished for what she did at the Battle of Binary Stars, which can we...
who needs to know about this? Discovery is a classified ship anyway. How do you know who they've got on board?
Well, what is it that Burnham did? So she disobeyed orders, but she was right. Like, she disobeyed orders because she believed that the Klingons were about to attack. Yes,
she's the one that was blamed for the entire war. She,
right.
Because they did that, the episode where she's being on the shuttlecraft that ends up in Discovery, where it was all her fault. The entire war was her fault. She was the fall guy for it.
I get that. It doesn't make logical sense within what actually happened, which is she didn't actually, like, the Klingons caused the war. They wanted to fight, and it would have been worse. It would have been it would have been better if Burnham had been able to do what she wanted to do.
And Vulcan hello them.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's frustrating.
Now, only thing that would fit is I would argue that doing the Vulcan neck pinch to your captain and ordering a salvo of torpedoes to be launched is mutiny.
No, I get that. It's just the whole she's responsible for the war. And the Battle of Boundary Stars and all the people we lost. That part is the
that's the setup. That's the setup. The Michael Burnham feels bad about herself for half the season arc.
And it's not unreasonable because whenever something bad happens, bureaucracies find a fall guy, and she's the fall guy.
Right. You can't have Captain Giorgio be the dead hero. She's the dead hero. She can't be the fall guy.
Yep.
All right. So Lorca is on a shuttlecraft heading back to Discovery, ambushed by a D7 battlecruiser, the Klingon battlecruiser. They get knocked out. The pilot's killed. Lorca is taken by L'Rell, who showed up, and she recognizes him, and they take him into the Klingon ship. And then Saru gets a communication from Cornwell, who puts him in charge. He's the acting captain, and his duty is to find Lorca. So we've sort of set things up. here. This is the trigger for the rest of the plot. So Saru rules out all discussion of using the tardigrade, Burnham's concerns about what they're doing to the tardigrade, until the captain is rescued, which of course is a bad idea. This is going to cause problems. We know that as the audience.
Just to be clear, he refuses to consider her objections to using the tardigrade. It's like, we're going to use this creature to get the captain back. I don't care.
Right. And there are moral issues that Burnham keeps bringing up, which is the tardigrade is not just a dumb animal. It's which by the way,
that's in dispute.
Right. Mm-hmm. Right. She contends that it has sentient. That there's some hints that it's sentient, that there's more than just a dumb animal, which you would think Saru would be sympathetic to, given the Kelpians' relationship to their
the Baul,
right? Which is kind of interesting, and this idea of, I don't care if we have to kill this person, perhaps, or this intelligent creature, in order to get the captain back. And
they really should have set this up a little better, because they haven't given us any evidence that this thing is intelligent.
Right.
What they should have done is had a scene where it's like, look at the scans of its brain. It's got a massive frontal cortex. That's a sign that it's intelligent, even if it's an intelligence that doesn't operate in a way that is obvious to us. And then the rejoinder would be, but it's also navigating this huge, massive mycelial network across the galaxy. Maybe it needs the big frontal cortex just to do that, and it's not really a sign that it's intelligent. It's just a really good navigator.
So far, all they've shown is that it's basically a big dog.
Right,
it can find food. It can hurt. Can be hurt. It can get angry. It can attack. But as far as an actual, that's all instinct.
Right. And later on, when they actually do go to jump into, use the spore drive, the tardigrade goes into this survival mode where it ejects all the water in its body, which is kind of weird, and curls up into this little ball.
Oh, what also would have been good, because then they could have brought in the ESP too, and Burnham could say, and I think it reached out to me telepathically, and I think that's ESP, and then the rejoinder would be, but ESP is unreliable in humans, so it could just be your imagination.
Right.
So you could add really nice ambiguity there about, is it intelligent or not, but they just blew past all that and said it may be intelligent. We have some signs of that, but they didn't explore it.
This is still the point in Discovery where there was no subtlety at all. I mean, let's be honest. The first, and I know we've talked about it before, but the first half of the first season of Discovery is very different than what we got, especially in the second
half
season,
or in the second
half of the first season, and definitely throughout the second season. I mean, and this is where, of course, a lot of Star Trek fans were turned off from Discovery, was because of the lack of subtlety and some of the stuff they did at this point in the series.
Right. So at that point where the tardigrade is, goes into survival mode, Saru, that's where Saru says, I don't care if we're going to kill it. I have 134 souls to worry about. Even though they've basically told them, you may be committing murder in order to do this. And so that's what he would. I mean, we kind of established that the thing is intelligent later. I mean, that's a big deal.
Do we?
I think as it's released. I mean, especially in the second season when we have that encounter in the mycelial network where we recover Culber from the dead. We established that it has some level of intelligence.
The tardigrade?
Don't we?
No, I don't think so. We never see the tardigrade again after this episode. Not until the animated series that's coming up, or the Ephraim and Dot animated short track.
We only see the spores, and the spores have intelligence, as evidenced by. Okay. Oh, right. I thought we had. Oh, well. In any case, it feels like the Saru has some situational ethics here, which make him not much better than Burnham was. That he gives her.
They needed to fix it. It could have been fixed on the dialogue level. I mean, all he had to say is, "I'm not convinced that this thing is alive. It is intelligent. I don't think it is."
Yep.
So I think this is an animal, and I think you're putting human life, you're putting animal life over human life, and I'm not going to do that.
Well, and there's even the conversation of where Burnham admits when she's talking to Culber, I'm probably anthropomorphizing him. I'm probably making him human. The tardigrade. And then, of course, they go, well, but there's intelligence, and then they do the whole thing about, but it could have an intelligence and all that.
Right.
So,
So,
at least they admit that.
so Chuck,
So Saru pulls up a list after Burnham's gone. He pulls up a list of the most decorated captains and asks for their common characteristics, and then asks the computer to evaluate him going forward by how well he matches up to those characteristics. And the computer has an alternative suggestion. The computer asks why he wants to do this, and he says, well, there's a destructive element that's causing me to second guess myself. And the computer says, alternative suggestion, eliminate destructive element. And he says, not an option. So that tells us Michael's the destructive element that's making him second guess himself.
Right.
And he can't eliminate Michael.
the list is interesting because it's a list of Starfleet's most decorated captains: Robert April, Jonathan Archer, Matthew Decker, Philippa Georgiou, Christopher Pike. All of them names we know.
Yeah, they should have put in a few names we didn't know.
Right. 3 of them are captains of ships named Enterprise. I mean, that's a little bit on the nose.
Two of them are captains of the same Enterprise.
Exactly. Yeah. It would have been. I mean, I know they're doing some fan service there, but it would have been more
put in
believable.
a few ones we've never heard of for the future.
Right.
Well, and that's where they could go through like the production crew list and just pick some random guy and throw his name on the list just cause.
Just cause.
Yeah.
So back to the Klingon ship. Lorca is in this cell, encounters Harry Mudd. Why is Harry Mudd on this Klingon ship? He tells a story about falling in love with Stella and running from his creditors.
Non-traditional lenders,
yes.
i.e. loan sharks.
Loan sharks, yes. Until he gets caught by the Klingons. And then a Klingon guard comes in and says, "Choose your pain." And Mudd points at this like semi-catatonic cellmate on the other side, which the Klingons then beat up and kill. And Mudd says that they make prisoners choose to either accept the beating or pass it on to a cellmate. And
this is a Klingon tactic to keep them from bonding.
Right.
And I'm going, this could really backfire on you big time, because if one of the guys always chooses himself to get the pain, that's going to make him really trustworthy to the other people. That would increase the bonding.
Well,
exactly.
They'd probably kill him after the second time. But what if if there's 2 prisoners in there and they point at each other?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I think
that's why they picked one out. They would pick one out. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, they pick one guy and make him choose.
Oh, okay.
One thing I wasn't sure about the random Starfleet guy was not Ash Tyler. That was some other Starfleet guy. That's what I thought. It was just some poor unfortunate smuck some red shirt basically.
And we never see him again, so he may have died as a result of his beating.
Yeah. He was pretty well beaten up to begin with, so understandable.
Yeah. What they could do is say you would choose your pain means pick someone, but it's not you.
Right.
In which case, whoever you pick knows, even if it was random, I'm still being hurt because of this guy, and that would undermine trust.
In fact, that is a tactic that was used in, I think it was either World War II by the Japanese or in the Vietnam War. I'm trying to remember now, where it was designed to have prisoners not trust each other to create conflict among them so that it's not turned against the jailers together. So it's not an unknown tactic. Mudd recognizes Lorca as a survivor. Like, you're a survivor just like me. And what is it about Lorca that he recognizes?
He knows who Lorca is because later on in the episode, he tells all about Lorca leaving the ship and all that and leaving his crew to die. And
okay, he left
I think he recognizes Lorca as what it is.
Lorca's cover story, the original Lorca. That actually comes up because he says, and in fact, let's talk about it now. He recognizes that
he's the captain of the Buran, which is a lost vessel, and he was the only survivor. And Lorca says that, so he's trying to make Lorca, I guess, feel guilty for being the only survivor and abandoning his crew. And Lorca turns the tables on him and says, no, I blew up my crew because they were going to be captured by Klingons, and I wanted to save them from that fate. So in essence, like in Vietnam, he burned the village in order to save it. Well, but I'm going, whether you were the last survivor and whether you blew up your own crew or not, how did you get command of a super classified science vessel like Discovery?
Well,
exactly.
And it turns out that he didn't actually survive that the real Lorca died.
Maybe he just fell into the mirror universe.
The real Lorca?
The real Lorca. Yeah, we don't have a body, so he could totally be alive.
Yeah, they could bring him back, yeah.
But as far as Starfleet is concerned, they think they've got the real Lorca.
Mm-hmm.
And why would you give someone you believe to be the real Lorca command of something like Discovery or any command when he's lost a ship?
Yeah, I mean,
like
I could
this?
see,
and especially if he's saying, "I blew up my own crew," rather than try to save them.
right? Or maybe he didn't. Maybe he didn't tell Starfleet that he blew it up himself. Maybe he let Starfleet think that the Klingons killed him and he just survived on a lark. But yeah, you're right.
He shouldn't be telling Harry Mudd.
Yeah, the likelihood of him being given Discovery is low. Mudd, this is where Mudd says, "Confession is good for the soul. Too bad none of us have one anymore." He says, says to them.
Father, can you speak from your military experience to the likelihood of someone who's lost a ship getting a new command?
I think it would
like
depend
this?
on the context. You know, obviously, if you're talking in the middle of a war and it was something beyond your control, that's one thing.
Yeah.
You know, of course, I never. First of all, I never served on a ship because I was Air Force. I served on a military base, but I was also not in a situation where that would would happen anyways. But it just my instinct would be if it was something, and frankly, depending on the context, the person might actually be, if it was done in an honorable way, might even be given promotion because of it. You know,
Right.
Depending on when it happened, what happened in the context of it, all that kind of stuff. You know, so but that being said, I can't see if a captain of a naval ship blew up the ship instead of letting the Germans invade the ship. I can't see that going well for the captain at all.
Right, right. So back on Discovery, Burnham and Culber are going to Stamets now to talk about the tardigrade problem, and Culber tells Burnham, well, he doesn't. Stamets doesn't ever listen to me anyway. So why should I'm not going to bother. I'm like, aren't they married? Isn't that going to be revealed later on that they're married? I guess the very strange relationship.
Yeah, I had forgotten they hadn't revealed that yet, and I just assume it's just part of their relationship. I mean, you can in a normal marriage, you can easily have moments where one spouse says, "Oh, my husband never or my wife never listens to me."
That's true. Stamets says the tardigrade problem is Burnham's fault, not his. It's not his problem to deal with because she introduced the tardigrade into the system. Never mind the fact that the system wasn't working until she introduced the tardigrade, but that's Stamets. He's a bit self-centered still at this point. Now, Lorca finds Ash Tyler, who is hiding in a dark corner of the cell, apparently. It must be a very big cell. And he thinks that Tyler, it must be a liar because he survived. He says he survived as a prisoner for 7 months. Tyler says it's because L'Rell took a liking to him. But he doesn't remember who he is at this point, right? His mind is been
he
overlaid.
He thinks he's Sharon Valeri from Caprica.
Right. Okay, so the Battlestar Galactica reference. And Mudd is angry at Starfleet for starting the war. Like he kind of goes off on a rant about Starfleet. This is all Starfleet's fault.
I thought this was actually very nice because Mudd says you high and mighty Starfleet guys, are flying around in your ships and you never look out and see how many of us little guys there are below you. But us little guys are sick and tired of getting caught in Starfleet's crossfire. And that's something that actually in any war that's very dangerous or that goes on long enough, you will have the population start questioning it and saying we're sick of this war and someone got us into it and it was over aggressive military or whatever, but the public will get tired of wars and start questioning them in this way. And I thought that was realistic. This would happen in this century too. People are not going to automatically assume everything Starfleet does is the right decision.
Well, you mentioned the Vietnam War, and that's a very key thing that a lot of people know and remember, that there was a lot of uprisings. And I'd even argue to this day, there are people who are very disappointed on how our military is being used. That's a political discussion off of this,
right?
But it's something that is a dynamic today as well.
Well, and it happened in the Civil War, and it happened to varying degrees even in World War II, which was by other standards a popular war, but people got war weary.
This is Dom Bettinelli, CEO of SQPN, with a special message. The StarQuest Network is fulfilling its mission to explore the intersection of faith and pop culture, and in the past year we've reached stunning new heights. Our programs are reaching broad new audiences with a message that helps us discern good entertainment, make sense of the world, and share the gospel with others. We continue to launch new shows and bring back great shows. We just relaunched Secrets of Star Wars, which comes at the perfect moment to capture the excitement over the new show, The Mandalorian, and the climax of the new Star Wars movies. The support of our audience is vital to this work and has helped us grow closer to meeting our financial obligations. For that, we are very grateful. But we still need to close the gap. Every new gift extends our deadline, but until we eliminate our deficits, the future of StarQuest and your favorite shows remain in question. This is why it's crucial we hear from you this Advent and Christmas, the time when nonprofits receive most of their support for the year. If you're already a supporter of StarQuest, we are very grateful, and we ask you to prayerfully consider increasing your support at this time. If you are not yet a supporter, please become one now. We urgently need your help, and every gift counts. Could you give $15 or even just $10 per month? That lets us provide more than 40 hours of professionally produced shows with compelling content. We have special thank you gifts for donors at several giving levels. If you are a business owner or just want to provide a leadership level of support, we now have a special giving level for sponsors, like in public broadcasting. For $500 per month, you or your business can sponsor one of the shows on our network. Listeners will hear a message in every episode thanking you for your sponsorship and giving your website. We'll also have your name and link on the SQPN webpage and in the show notes of every episode during your sponsorship. Whatever level of support you can offer, whether large or small, please show your support for SQPN this Christmas, and remember that your gifts are tax deductible. Just go to sqpn.com/give. That's sqpn.com/give. And may God bless you and yours as we approach the celebration of our Lord's birth. Shifting back to Discovery, we have a tardigrade exposition lesson. That's what I called it. We spend a lot of time talking about how the tardigrade works and the problem of the spore drive and Ripper. That's what they named the tardigrade.
Yep.
And we're told it can travel the mycelial network because it does a horizontal DNA transfer from the spore plant, which acts like a key to open the network. I mean, honestly, I find most of this magic.
Oh,
yeah.
Oh, interesting. Okay, because I found it interesting because horizontal gene transfer is a real thing.
No, that part is I don't have a problem with it. But you go ahead. Yeah.
Well, so the idea is it picks up DNA from the mycelial network itself and incorporates it into its own genome, and then it uses that to navigate the network. And this is similar to how horizontal gene transfer works in real life, where you have two closely related organisms. One of them borrows DNA from the other and incorporates it into its own genome, and that gives it certain advantages. It's able to ape certain things of the organism it got it from. And this happens with humans. I mean, when we get sick with a virus, we can incorporate that virus into our own personal genome, and then it helps give us immunity to that virus in the future. And in fact, the DNA of basically every higher life form is littered with viruses that our ancestors got in the past that give us immunity to those viruses.
Right. No, I'm sorry. It wasn't that part that it was magic. I think it was the whole mycelial network thing, like the idea that we travel the interdimensional roots of mushrooms through the galaxy.
This particular type of mushroom has mycelial roots that go throughout all of creation.
Yeah, through dimensions. It's just a little hard to...
And they hang a lantern on that. I mean, eventually we're going to meet Janet Reno, and she's going to I want mushrooms on my pizza, dude.
Right.
Yeah.
They do. And then we get Star Trek's, or at least TV series Star Trek's, but it might be also all of Star Trek's first F-bomb, where Tilly...
Which was literally thrown in there just to say, look at how cool we are, because we can now use F-bombs in Star Trek.
Yes. Yeah. It's unfortunate. I'm sorry, but I mean, I'm no shrinking violet. I watch movies with curse words. Like, I get that, but it's just
it breaks the form here.
It does, and it's obviously done, like Father Corey said, obviously done because we can. See, we're cool.
We're edgy. We have swear words now.
Right. So I mean, it's whatever, but it's not the end of the world. But it's unfortunate.
I don't know if y'all have ever seen Red versus Blue.
Yes. YouTube channel.
It's a machinima, that series. It started as a comedy series, but in the first season of Red versus Blue, they have some cuss words. And then in the second season of Red versus Blue, they start dropping the cuss words. And if you listen to the commentary on the compiled second season where they made it all one movie, it was apparently recorded at the time, and they're so happy. The creators are so happy about the fact we discovered we totally don't need these cuss words, and we can still tell the good, effective stories without them, and so forth. And it makes it more family friendly, and they're all excited about that. Well, then in season 3, the cuss words are back because apparently they got lots of pushback from fans that wanted the cuss words and used the cuss words in their missives to the creators.
Oh, gosh. I
You know,
guess
that's one thing, though, I've always liked about stuff like, especially the original Battlestar Galactica, where there is cursing, but it's not real life curse words.
Oh, Felger Carb.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like the Good Place.
Yeah, same thing. But, you know, the fact is, whether you like curse words or not, that's a part of human nature.
Right.
But that doesn't mean we need to be actually slapped upside the head with the real curse words all the time
Right.
either.
And
I'm amazed that they got frack on the air back in the 1970s with Battlestar Galactica.
Yeah, that's a little too close.
And I know that, you know, our European listeners and those from other places in the world, I mean, this is film, you know, every evening on broadcast television,
TV.
they get the same stuff. So they think of Americans as being particularly unusually prudish about certain kinds of language. And I get that. It's what we're used to. And so
Yeah, it's our culture.
Yeah, but I'm not. It's just gratuitous here. That's the problem. Is it's just thrown in
Yeah.
for that purpose, no other.
Exactly.
It's like if you're used to stories of a certain kind, like if I'm watching Mr. Robot, I'm going to expect cursing.
Yeah.
But if I'm watching Star Trek, I'm not expecting cursing because this is an established form. It obeys certain rules, and to violate them for no artistic reason is off-putting.
Yes.
I do, while we're diverged a little bit on this, my favorite all-time comic book series, The Legion of Superheroes, is set in the 31st century. And so they have 31st century cussing in it, and which is unrelated to human cussing. So it's like they'll be saying bloody nass and sprock and things like that. And in one episode, in one issue, there's an interview with their science police liaison. And they're asking, did anything surprise you when you started working with all these young people in the Legion of Superheroes? And she's like, well, they cuss an awful lot. I mean, I know they're under a lot of stress saving the galaxy, but I was just a little surprised at how much they cuss.
That's funny. So speaking of language, in the next scene we have Lorca being interrogated and tortured by L'Rell, who speaks for the first time in English. And apparently Mary Chieffo, who plays L'Rell, and the dialect coach extrapolated from the Klingon language how a Klingon's accent would sound when speaking English and wrote it all out. So they have all of they really worked hard at getting the accent right in her dialogue, which I do appreciate. It shows some attention to detail. And then I didn't given my foreknowledge, when she asks Lorca if he knows anything about torture, I'm thinking, well, he's from the Mirror Universe, so yeah, he probably knows quite a lot about it.
Yeah, exactly.
But she does torture him by shining bright lights in his eyes. He does not yell, "There are 4 lights."
Yeah, and that's the significance of, which we don't know at this point, of him being so photosensitive. Is that's the only significant difference between people from the Prime Universe and the Mirror Universe. Is people in the Mirror Universe have higher photosensitivity.
Although we don't see that with the Empress at all.
Yeah, or any of the other times people from the Mirror Universe came over.
Right.
So now Saru...
Oh, there's also a line in here where L'Rell explains the reason she knows English so well is she's from a family of spies.
Yes.
And that was a nice touch. And then Lorca, though, is needling her about her relationship with Ash Tyler.
Yes.
And he drops a line that I don't remember the first time I heard this or watched this, but he says, we don't even have the right number of organs for you. And it's like, I'm glad they didn't explore that any further.
Yeah, not sure I want to know what that means. So next act begins back on Discovery, and Saru is, wants to go to, they found a trail, and they want to go find the captain, but they can't because the spore drive is offline, despite him telling Burnham to stop worrying for the tardigrade. she acts patronizing toward him about being a Kelpian and about his his species, and he gets angry. I mean, she doesn't have. He is the captain. She is an underling. She's supposed to obey his orders, whatever she thinks of his motivations or reasons for that, which is what got her in trouble with Giorgio in the first place.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. Also, she hasn't closed the loop with him because by this point they have confirmation that the tardigrade's temporal lobe is being damaged every time they jump.
Right.
And she didn't go to Saru and tell him that.
Yes.
So he's operating without that information. And instead, she's gone to engineering and is trying, this is her pattern at this point in the series, rather than reporting what she knows to the command and letting the command make the decisions, she's trying to engineer her own solution to the problem. And so she's down in engineering, and they're trying to figure out how to do horizontal gene transfer to another species. So far, the only one they've found that can take the DNA is humans.
Mm-hmm.
And so, of course, when I love the line when she tells Saru about this in engineering, and he's all in a lather because she's not kept him in the loop.
Right.
He's like, eugenics experiments are forbidden. And it's like, yes, in the Star Trek universe, that's true. That should be his first thought.
Right. And that would be a eugenics action, to do that DNA transfer.
He then really freaks out on Burnham, calls her a predator, and blames her for the death of Captain Giorgio, and then confines her to quarters.
Right. And orders Stamets to get the tardigrade ready to do a jump.
Yeah.
Now, Lorca, back on the prison ship, when he gets thrown back in the cell, realizes that Mudd had been passing information to the Klingons based on what L'Rell was questioning him about in his torture session.
Mm-hmm.
And how he knew that isn't really solid. So
Right.
they've established that Mudd has this trained scorpion thing
Yeah.
that is as a pet. And when Lorca comes back in, he grabs the scorpion thing, and there's a bug on the bug, an electronic listening device on the scorpion thing. So he takes it off and steps on it, and he concludes that Mudd's been passing information. And I'm like, how do you know the cell just doesn't have a bug in the ventilation system or something? I mean, they could totally be listening to everything you say. They don't need Mudd.
In
They
fact,
wouldn't even
they
really
would.
need they wouldn't even need a bug in the ventilation system. They could just have one right in the middle of the room because it's their cell. They
It's a
can
cell.
put bugs wherever they want. They don't have to hide them.
Right.
Well, but even if they wanted candid discussions, they wanted people to think that they were unmonitored so they would be more forthcoming, they could have hidden the bug anywhere. They didn't need it on this scorpion thing.
Right. And then we have this moment where Tyler asks Lorca, when they say to choose your pain, he says, choose me over Mudd instead, when the Klingons come in. And so he does. He chooses Tyler. So he starts getting beat up. But of course, it's a ruse.
Right. They're planning on turning the tables on the Klingons, which they then do.
Right. And so they get out of the cell and leave Mudd behind, who yells at them.
This is so not Starfleet.
Yes.
I mean, I cannot imagine any other Starfleet captain besides Lorca deliberately leaving Mudd in Klingon custody, even knowing he was a traitor. I mean, if
Right.
nothing else, this guy could be a valuable source of intelligence.
Picard, Kirk, they all would have taken him, with
Yeah.
them. But Mudd gets the last word. He yells, "You haven't seen the last of Harcourt Fenton Mudd," which we haven't,
Yeah.
obviously.
In fact, Lorca slugs him before leaving him.
Yes. Now, it's interesting, Klingons obviously,
And,
yes.
and notice what this says about Ash Tyler. He's willing to go and leave Mudd without protesting.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes. And Ash at this again thinks he's a Starfleet officer here. So,
Meanwhile,
they kill.
they vaporized lots of Klingons in the hallways.
That's what I was going to point out, is that that L'Rell and Vok, when he was Vok, obviously were okay with a lot of their crew getting killed on the way, in setting up this escape. This is they obviously don't value life. Now she starts a fight with Tyler. So Tyler gets injured. The Lorca goes ahead to prepare the way, and then L'Rell finds Ash, and she starts this fight with Ash and almost gets disintegrated for it.
I know she gets hit, but
Yeah.
it
It
and
burns
this is
her.
why she's scarred in the future episodes. But
Right.
still, she was taking a huge risk because those things are set on vaporize.
Yeah.
And she gets hit with something set on vaporize and is lucky for reasons.
Well, it looked to me more like the bulkhead next to her got hit and it threw like the burning stuff off the bulkhead more than.
But that was luck, not design.
Yeah, exactly.
Why is like it's the whole, like, the writers are trying to sell us, they're trying to mislead us into who Ash Tyler, about what Ash Tyler really is.
Mm-hmm.
But the fact is given what we know from the future episodes, what we know was really going on, this doesn't make sense.
Right. Because what this really is, this is not to get information out of Lorca about Discovery. This is to plant Ash Tyler on Discovery.
Yes.
That's the real purpose of all this scenario the Klingons are doing.
Right. And then
they're taking insane risks in doing that.
Yes. Lorca and Tyler manage to get on board a Klingon
a badminton ball. They get on board a badminton ball, and Flea and other badminton balls are chasing them.
Yes, but they've been told to let them go free because we have a tracking device that will take us to the rebel base.
Yeah.
Oh, I mean,
they let
I'm
us
sorry.
go.
Yeah,
It's too easy.
So Saru, meanwhile, is back on Discovery, and he's like on the bridge. He calls down to Stamets and says, "Stamets, have you revived the tardigrade yet?" And Stamets doesn't say yes. He says, "We're able to jump," which is a very, a very carefully phrased reply.
Yeah, he's not answered the question. By the way, I like the fact they use the real biological term for the state the tardigrade is in. It's in cryptobiosis.
Yes.
Kryptos is Greek for hidden. And so cryptobiosis is when you're in a state of hidden life. You're really alive, but that fact is hidden from observation.
Right.
And tardigrades do dehydrate themselves and enter cryptobiosis when they need to.
In fact, when that Israeli lunar probe crashed on the moon, it was carrying Earth tardigrades, like the real tiny water bear.
I thought
things.
it was Chinese.
Oh, yes, the Chinese one. Right. It was it was. And they're up there on the surface, ready to be revived if they encounter any water. So
just add water.
There are aliens on the moon. So now, of course, another plot hole. Why was no one else in the spore room with Stamets? Because they're preparing to jump. So obviously, we're getting ready to jump. Things are happening. Everyone's going to be at their station, but nobody was in there with him. So kind of weird.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. They may. I kind of assumed there were people, but by the time they come down there and find him, I don't know.
Yeah. But
just decided we just violated some orders. Let's get out of here.
Yeah. Plot.
Yeah.
So
we know nothing.
Stamets had injected himself with the tardigrade DNA compound, and
that's a trope of mad scientists injecting themselves with stuff or running procedures on themselves. But it really happens in real life. Actually, that science fiction trope does occur.
Yes.
I remember just one example. There was a famous guy who had this theory about what causes ulcers. And he said, it's not what everybody thinks. It's this other thing. And so he deliberately infected himself with what he thought caused ulcers. And sure enough, he got an ulcer.
Oh, well, congratulations. You're right.
Fortunately, it meant it's also curable.
Right. So Stamets puts himself in the spore drive room where it jabs him in the sides and stabs him pretty good, but allows him to be the key that opens the mycelial network. Saru barely admits to Burnham later that he was wrong about the tardigrade, and which almost got them killed and the ship captured. I mean, he was wrong and badly here because of his If they hadn't done what they did, they probably wouldn't have gotten out of there. Right.
What he does admit to, though, is he says he's angry and jealous of her that he was never Captain Georgiou's first officer.
Right.
And that would have, if he had been, he would have been more prepared for what he had to do today.
Right. Yeah, because Burnham was supposed to be promoted, get her own ship, and then Saru would become first officer and get that opportunity. And because of Burnham, he was denied that opportunity, which is a very self-centered.
So as a consolation prize, Burnham gives him Captain Georgiou's crappy Amazon.com telescope.
Yes, hundreds of years old. It's undoubtedly terrible. But it's a very self-centered reason.
Oh, it's terrible today. I mean, the aperture width on that thing is just a few inches.
No, not the telescope. Saru's reasoning.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. But I'm mad at you because I didn't get my chance. Like, hello, we're in a war here. We're trying to save everybody,
Yeah.
but yeah,
Would have had your chance if we didn't get in this war.
right,
Yeah.
right. So he orders Burnham to save the tardigrade. So she and Tilly dose it with spores. They sprinkle some over it.
And Tilly prays over it.
Yes.
Yeah, I was going to say that it's a paraphrase of Psalm 121, verses 6 and 8.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll read what she said. May the sun and moon watch your comings and goings and the endless nights and days that are before you. Psalm 121 says, the sun shall not smite you by day, nor the moon by night. And then this is the part they leave out. The Lord will keep you from all evil. He will keep your life. And then again, the paraphrase is of the Lord will keep your going out and your coming in from this time forth and forevermore. That's from the Revised Standard Version. So it's they leave out the whole part about the Lord keeping you. But
I don't know that I hear it being similar enough to count that as a paraphrase of the same passage, but maybe there are other versions that are closer.
Yeah, there are other versions that are closer, and it really is verse 8 of, the sun and moon will keep your going and your coming.
right.
Instead of the Lord will keep your going and coming.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, right. It's so
Still, it's how geocentric of us. The sun and the moon really Earths are. We're nowhere near Earth.
Yeah, exactly.
But it is interesting that Tilly does say a prayer over it as they send it out. I do like that she sprinkles the salt on it, the spore salt on it.
Yeah.
It makes it revive. Although they dose it and then throw it on an airlock, where does it get the water to reconstitute itself? Because it left 99% of the water was ejected from it.
Yep.
Due to cryptobiosis. Anyway, it bounces onto the network and off it goes.
And Burnham had orders to save its life, not let it go.
Yes.
I mean, this is a huge strategic asset. At the beginning of the episode, Starfleet is all, we need to find more tardigrades, and you're letting go the only one we have without authorization?
Right. Apparently, now that they can do the DNA thing with Stamets,
eugenics experiments are illegal.
I know. They just played fast and loose with the rules here on Discovery, and everyone just kind of does whatever they want. Saru is back in the ready room while Lorca's recovering, and he initiates the computer performance review back, to reference when he wanted it to monitor his performance, and cancels it before it can get into it, and just says, "I know what I did. I know how I performed." I'm not sure what that means, but
it's a step in his self-actualization. He's no longer looking to the computer to tell him how he does. He can self-evaluate.
Right. So then the end of it is Stamets and Culber in their quarters, revealing their relationship, brushing their teeth. Apparently, there's no toothpaste in the 24th century or 23rd century. Their toothbrushes do not have toothpaste. It's
Sonic.
Sonic, yeah.
Yeah, and actually, toothpaste, my understanding, is a bit of a scam anyway. My dentist told me you actually don't need it.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah. Just the physical action of scrubbing your teeth will do what you need to do.
Uh-huh. Well, and of course we have fluoride in our water, so that too. And then it ends with Stamets walking out of the bathroom into the quarters, but his reflection stays in the mirror for a while. What does that
which actually
mean?
doesn't make sense, but
it doesn't. Yeah, right. The rest of the whole story of Stamets being connected to the mycelial network, that isn't explained this at all. So I don't know what that was about, but very interesting anyway. Any final notes on this episode?
I thought it was a pretty good episode, except for I didn't like Saru's overreaction to everything in this episode, because he's like Mr. Adamant Angry Guy, and he should be more measured in his thinking about stuff. But I can kind of excuse that in terms of his character arc, because this is a story about him growing as a commander, and so he needs to start from somewhere that he's not as polished as he will later become. So I can kind of excuse his overreaction. The other thing is, the thing that I really have a hard time with, though, is releasing the tardigrade without authorization. That's crazy.
Yeah, right. Because now you're dependent on stabbing Stamets every time you want to jump somewhere, which actually, given Stamets' personality, might be a reason they want to do it.
Yeah, although in that final scene, he started to become the remarkably chill Spore Stamets that we later realize he's had a personality change.
That's right.
But because eugenics experiments are forbidden, you have to presume we're not going to be using them on other ships. They've told us that we're fast-tracking development of spore drives for other ships, and we need tardigrades to run them. And just because your engineer went off the reservation and gene-edited himself doesn't mean that that's going to be a permitted procedure on other ships.
Right.
You'd still want to hang on to that tardigrade, even if it can't be used anymore because it's getting too much brain damage. You're going to want to study it, figure out its habits, figure out if there's ways to trace it so you can go on the great tardigrade hunt and get more of them.
Right. That's true. Yeah, I agree. I kind of, apart from those few holes, I liked the episode. It was one of there was a lot of it to enjoy as far as the first half of the first season. I know that's a lot of qualifications, but there was plenty in there to be interesting character development anyway. And the introduction of Ash Tyler, who becomes a very interesting bit of a ticking time bomb for the dramatic ticking time bomb for the rest of the season.
Oh, there's also a bit of foreshadowing that went by pretty fast where, in addition to having some kind of weird connection to his mirror universe self through the mycelial network, Stamets also has a flash of precognition when he looks at Hugh, and Hugh is talking about, like, you could have died. And Stamets looks at him and says, "You're going to die."
Right.
And that's actually foreshadowing, but it's said in such a way that it's not menacing. It's like, oh, well, you could have died too. Everyone's going to die.
Right.
Yeah.
But knowing what happens later, it's no, he's going to die soon.
Right. Or not. He'll die, but he won't.
Or not. It won't be permanent.
Yeah.
He got better.
I think I'll go for a walk. So we do have a little bit of feedback I wanted to share on our Deep Space Nine episode where we talked about Babel, episode 75. Kelly Brown,
Golden Window.
Yep. Kelly Brown writes on Facebook, "This was one of the few season 1 episodes that I can rewatch, and I say this as a DS9 fan. Season 1 had a lot of misses and few hits. You talk about one-word episode titles. Your talk about one-word episode titles remind me of a mid-90s spy series called La Femme Nikita, whose first season had all one-word episode titles, second season had two-word titles, and so on through the 4-year run of the show. You always knew what season the episode was by the title." And I'm thinking, yeah, Discovery didn't do that. Butcher's Knife, Lamb's Cry.
Yeah.
Actually, you can know what season it is based off the title. If it's a completely incomprehensible title, it's season 1.
Yeah.
That's right. So thank you, Kelly, for that feedback. We appreciate it.
Yeah.
So we want to take a moment to thank our patrons who make it possible for us to create the Secrets of Star Trek, including Paul L., Terry M., Yvonne R., Dennis S., and Todd H. Their generous donations at sqpn.com/give make it possible for us to continue the Secrets of Star Trek and all the shows at StarQuest. You can join them by visiting sqpn.com/give. And we'd also like to thank Victor Lambs, who edits our show every week. Thank you, Victor. So that's it from us. What did you think of Discovery's Choose Your Pain? Let us know by commenting on the show at sqpn.com/trek or our Facebook page at facebook.com/StarQuestMedia, or send us an email to trek@sqpn.com. We'll be back next time when we'll be discussing the original series episode Charlie X, or otherwise known as We Will Have No Faces.
Till we have faces.
I know. I'm putting a little gloss on that. Until then, Father Corey Stika, thank you for joining me and sharing the secrets of Star Trek.
Well, thank you, Dom.
And Jimmy Aiken, thank you as well.
Thank you, and live long and prosper.
And once again, I'm Dom Bettinelli. Thank you for listening to the Secrets of Star Trek on StarQuest. And remember, you haven't seen the last of Harcourt Fenton Mudd.